gave you the news. Printed the info, we gave you the clues. Owners' profits were always sky high. Changing market now threatens our lives.
Hey everybody, welcome to Navel Gazing, the Valley Indy podcast. My name is Eugene Driscoll of valleyindy.org. I want to welcome back to the podcast for the first time since he's been elected is State Senator Jorge Cabrera. Hello, Mr. Cabrera.
Hey, Eugene. Great to have me. Thank you for having me back. It's been a little while.
Now we could relax a little bit. I don't know, like all the other times you're on, I was just trying to trip you up with Valley questions, but I won't do that too much right now. But for those who might not be aware, Senator Cabrera represents the 17th district, and I have in order of the of how much he cares about the towns. It's Ansonia, Derby. I'm kidding. Beacon Falls, Bethany, Hamden, Naugatuck, and Woodbridge. Did I leave any out?
What did you say? Hamden?
I got Hamden. I got Naugatuck, Woodbridge, Ansonia, Beacon Falls, Bethany, and Derby.
Naugatuck.
Okay. Last time I had you on a while back where we did I got some heat from Hamden because I only covered Derby and Ansonia. So I just want to keep Hamden happy.
It's a big district. Got to keep everybody happy.
Yeah, I bet. So you were sworn into office on January 6th. And I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about that because here it is, I assume, a lifelong dream. You're sworn in as a state senator. You've been involved in politics in one way or another for a long time. But that same day, we have a mob invade the U.S. Capitol, something I could never even imagine happening in my lifetime. So what was that? What was that day like for you?
It was a very interesting day. We really weren't sure if my wife and kids would even be able to come up to Hartford. We were still, believe it or not, in the weeks leading up to the day of the inauguration, still deciding whether or not we were going to have it indoor, in a tent, come in groups, have family, not have family. I lucked out. I'm one of two freshmen in the Senate, on the Senate caucus side for the Democrats. Rick Lopes is the other one, but he had to serve on the House side. So many of my colleagues had been through this before and didn't have too much family coming up. So I was able to get my wife and kids up there, but it was surreal. It was very different. We were outside. It was cold. Everyone had face coverings and gloves and hats. And we were worried about security. So, we had a perimeter and we had lots of Capitol Police out. Fairly quick event, but I was happy that we were able to do it. And glad to share that moment with my wife and my kids. We hung around for a little while, just congratulating each other and talking about what we were going to do. Then we went home to watch the certification of the president-elect of the Capitol. And I was sitting in my living room like lots of people with my wife, watching the House and Senate go through their constitutional duty to certify the election results, and news reports, and we could see it on television of people storming the Capitol, and I just sat there in disbelief. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I'm a student of government and political science. As you know, I got my degree in political science in Quinnipiac, and I spent a lot of time studying governments, and I have some idea on how important it is to have a democracy and free elections, and I have studied that. And so I was really worried, and I said I couldn't believe what I was watching, and I was really concerned for our democracy, and just began to hope for the best. I was hoping no one would get hurt or die. I said a prayer for our country, for our elected officials, hoping that things would not escalate. And unfortunately, like everyone else watched, like I did, 5 people lost their lives. And thank God the Congress was able to come back shortly after the attempted coup to certify the election and make sure that the people's voices were heard and respected.
And my next question, I view that, I'm just a rinky-dink local reporter, barely a blip on the media landscape, but it made me think, okay, like I do monitor a Facebook page, and Facebook can be a place, and Twitter too, where there's a lot of fighting, and after a while, it can drain on your soul. Just it's almost like people are conditioned now to just disagree and just post angry things online. So how do we bridge? I guess it's a long way of asking the question. How do we bridge this gap that's still there? I mean, watching even yesterday, the difference between like an MSNBC and then Newsmax, where there's just completely different views of the world. How do we bridge the gap now?
Well, for me, it starts at home. My father, I tell this story all the time. My father came to this country in the early 60s, speaking barely a word of English, with no education, no money, no connections. And, he came here because intuitively he knew that here he could make a go of it. He knew that here he'd have a shot. He may not be able to sit down and articulate, the balance of power or recite the Constitution or Declaration of Independence word for word, but he knew that here he'd get an opportunity, he'd be given a shot, and he did. He worked really hard to give me and my brother opportunities he could only dream of. And I think what's happening in our country is that we've become so polarized, and we've spoken to each other, we speak past each other, that it's gotten to the point where it's gotten extremely personal and quite frankly violent. As we saw on January 6th in our nation's capital. We need to start talking to each other again. And what I mean by that is not just talking past each other, but we need to start to listen. I think it's a really good idea. Take a moment, take a deep breath, be quiet for a little while, and really listen to each other. And then understand that we live in a free country and people vote, and we need to respect the will of the people. I know that there was lots of rumors and lots of misinformation about whether or not votes were cast legally or not, but we went through that process. I mean, we had so many elected officials in a lot of battleground states review, inspect, audit their ballots, and they were certified. They were confirmed. Many of them Republican elected officials. We had I don't know how many court cases, challenges in a variety of courts. I think it was close to 60 that went through all of this and again came with the same result. We need to really respect the will of the people, and we need to start listening and talking to each other again. Now, talked about this last time. My big reason for running is that it is true that lots of people have felt that they've been left behind. People are working really hard, especially in the Valley, and not getting ahead. And there is a legitimate case to be made that our elected officials, in many ways, have left working people behind. Not enough people getting into the middle class, not enough people feeling like the hard work they're putting in, day out, is really getting them anywhere, and that's real. But we need to do our politics and have our disagreements in a peaceful way, and make sure that we uphold the will of the people, make sure that we respect our institutions and our democracy.
Has any of the ugliness that was happening on the national level in terms of threats filtered down to the state level? Have you felt anything? I know sometimes I'll just put whatever the party is, just your party affiliation. If you're a Democrat, there's going to be at least 2 comments. No good. No, just based on that affiliation. Have you experienced any of that so far? I mean, it's only been 3 weeks, but is it getting uglier, or is it?
Thankfully, directed at me personally, no. I've been pretty lucky. I mean, there have been, as you know, I'm sure you saw in the news coverage, kind of general threats against elected officials. We've been lucky and blessed that we're safe. I know my hat's off to the Capitol Police and the FBI and the state police, who did a wonderful job in securing the day that we were at the Capitol, and did a phenomenal job in securing all of us in a variety of ways, some known, some unknown, for obvious reasons to protect tactics and strategies. But no, they did a great job, and I'm really focused on really turning the temperature down, and I think that we need to focus on solutions, and that's what I intend to do in Hartford. I'm really focused on working with my colleagues, Democrats and Republicans, who want to bring common sense policy back to Connecticut, whether it's workforce development, funding our public schools, getting our transportation system off the ground with, finally getting the Waterbury train line going, which would be a huge boom for the valley and from Naugatuck all the way down through the district, making sure that we help small businesses recover from COVID, making sure frontline workers have what they need. As they emerge from COVID, they've been impacted greatly. I've spoken to so many of them, grocery store workers, healthcare workers, and nursing homes, people who don't have the luxury of working from home on Zoom, who have to show up for work, who take risks every day. We've got to make sure we take care of them and help them get through this pandemic as we make our way and these vaccines make their way through our state.
And I just realized I should, because I'm not a broadcaster, but I should point out the third name you see here, that's Henry Chisholm. That's Senator Cabrera's press guy, press flack. Did I say flack, or is that's not offensive, right? That's okay.
Keep me honest.
So, and speaking of just your work now, that I've asked you to weigh in on national issues, but I just got a release before we signed on here. On Monday, you're coming to Derby and Ansonia with State Rep Cara Rochelle, State Rep Mary Wielander, Ansonia's Mayor David Cassetti, Rich Zekin, and I believe it was the Department of Economic and Community Development Commissioner David Lehman to go on a tour of potential development sites in both downtowns. You're also bringing the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments. So Rick Dunn doesn't have to go too far from his home to go on this tour. But what's going to be happening? And let me just, from the cynical side of me, this is like the 9th time I've heard about a tour like this going on in the two communities. But what's the purpose of it? Shatter my cynicism.
Well, the purpose of it is to get elected officials together from Derby and Ansonia, from the local level, the state level, people who work in the governor's office, Mr. Lehman, people in a lot of these economic development organizations that you mentioned, to get us all together to take a walk through Ansonia and Derby and talk about potential funding and bonding for projects that can help Derby and Ansonia start to really move forward in creating jobs and bringing businesses back into the valley and growing our grand list and growing our tax base. So, we've been talking about, and in the campaign about projects such as the Route 34 project. There's a lot more room for development. I think, in the campaign, we talked a lot about how we felt that the valley has been overlooked for too long by the state of Connecticut. So this is an effort along with Representative Rochelle, Representative Wielander, our state delegation, to basically reach out to local officials, our mayors and elected officials, to just take a tour, take a walk, start to discuss and start to think about how we can help Derby and Ansonia and maybe bring back some dollars to really begin to develop these two awesome towns in the valley. They have such an amazing, strong, proud history, but for too long have been neglected by the state of Connecticut, and we're hoping to change that.
And in terms of, since you were sworn in on January 6th, tell me, have you reached out to like the mayor of Ansonia and the mayor of Derby to sort of talk about, hey, I'm now on the job? How does that work?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have. We've had some preliminary meetings on Zoom with the delegation, with Rep. Rochelle, Rep. Wielander, and Mayor Zekin and Mayor David Cassetti, as well as his staff, just to start to talk about what projects they're teeing up and how we can help. At the end of the day, we are elected to represent the people. In my case, the 17th district, but as you know, Ansonia and Derby is in the heart of my district. It's important to me. I really got to know the people who live there very well during 2 campaigns, and I really want to work together with the elected officials just to make sure that we're doing everything we can, that we're doing our job at the state, shaking that tree up there, making sure that we're working hand in glove with the mayors in Derby and Ansonia and their administrations to make sure that we can help give the people of Ansonia and Derby all the opportunities to succeed that they deserve and want.
And then in terms of Derby, and I'm a little biased because I live in Derby, sorry people, but what can you share, just between you and me, can you share anything about the Route 34 widening project? Has that advanced at all? I mean, last I heard, there was a meeting in December between all these engineers and guys with pocket protectors. Do you know what's the latest, if anything?
Well, we're right now talking about how we at the state level can help. And so there've been some preliminary meetings. We haven't dug in deep yet, but that's part of why we're meeting on Monday and to work with the mayor and identify how we can help. And so we're getting the lay of the land. The most important thing is for us to communicate with each other effectively and then make a commitment to do what we can at the state level to work with the local officials. So stay tuned. More to come. We're dead serious about this. You know, I talked about this in the campaign. It's not going to happen overnight, but I'm committed to having open lines of communication with the local officials in Derby and Ansonia and making sure we do everything we can.
And I feel sort of like an ignoramus asking you these questions up until this point, because what I haven't asked you about, and what I imagine takes up all of state government time, is the COVID-19 pandemic. You know,
Yeah.
the briefing today with Governor Lamont seemed to be there's indication that maybe this is stabilizing. That Connecticut, I mean, the country as a whole, where it's still bad in many places, Connecticut seems to be sort of moving along. Uh, but then, you know, with the vaccine rollout, I found it interesting just from my end to try to get information. Sometimes it can be hard. Like vaccine announcements and these clinics are set up, but there's only like a day or two notice. And then just from sort of pressing people, they tell you sort of off the record, well, you know, one agency doesn't get information. It seems like the you know, poop usually rolls downhill. It seems like with whatever happens to the vaccine and some delays, it's uphill. Are you confident? Am I making any sense? Is the vaccine rollout going smoothly? I know Connecticut is one of the best in the nation, but compared to what?
We are, yeah, we're compared to the rest of the country, we're at the top, which is great. Unfortunately, things could move faster. And as you know, we saw and I've been getting constituent emails and phone calls, people who have been frustrated, who have signed up and then got knocked off. Look, we're trying to do the best that we can. We have a coronavirus task force that provides pretty regular reports to us in the Senate every 24 hours about what's going on and how things are being basically rolled out. There's going to be kinks. It's we're in the middle of a transition at the presidential level, as you know. President Biden just took office, so there's a lot of work to be done at that level. I am encouraged. He set a very ambitious goal of 100 million vaccines in the first 100 days. As you saw this morning, he also is triggering the National Production Act, and also is developing a strategy to really ramp up the production of vaccines. And you know, in Connecticut, we are doing well. And you know, I know that people are frustrated. I know people. I've been dealing with people almost every day, especially my seniors, 75 plus, who are dying. You know, really want to get their vaccines and are been very frustrated with it. But all I can say is that we're on it. We are hearing the same things that a lot of folks are going through, and trust me, we are on the phone. We're sending our emails to the governor and to the various agencies to make sure that they know what we're hearing on the ground. And I'm confident as time goes on, you know, we'll do much better. We have to remember that for a long time, quite frankly, we haven't had strong leadership at the national level. We had a situation where all 50 states were competing with each other for PPE. We had very poor communication, and so we're doing really good under those circumstances. Can we do better? Absolutely. Will we do better as time goes on? Yeah, I think so.
And then I saw something on Facebook. I don't know if this was a public statement or a private statement, so I won't name the person, but it was a prominent Republican in the state, former office holder, saying that, hey, look, Governor Lamont has had these executive powers for going on a year right now. It's, you know, there's more than one branch. It's not all just the executive branch of government, and that the elected lawmakers need to have a say and need to sort of stand up and do their more traditional role in terms of governing the state. What's your take on Governor Lamont? I understand it's going to be extended even further, these executive orders and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that this is this is a once in 100-year crisis, pandemic. So this is a very unique situation, and it has been difficult to get work done. Just to give you an example, today I was on multiple Zoom meetings. We're not allowed in the Capitol, as you know, it's closed. It's been very challenging to get business done remotely, but we're making through. Legislation is starting to be introduced, and in the coming weeks and months, we expect to really begin to hit our stride and do the people's business. And we are gonna monitor the situation, and we're being briefed. I know our leadership in the Senate, and I know in the House as well, is in pretty regular contact with the governor's office regarding the management and the handling of this virus. And so, are these powers going to be going on forever? No, they won't. But I think it's also important to remember that the governor has chosen to do lots of things collaboratively with open lines of communication. And so I think that's encouraging and that's positive.
And another thing I wanted to ask you about, I attend a lot of Derby Police Commission meetings because I live in Derby, and that's my dog barking upstairs. Chief Norowski in Derby, and I heard this a couple of months back in Seymour too with Chief Sikowski up there. The police accountability bill, one aspect that they both have had problems with or issues with is the cost connected to equipping cars and officers with cameras. They just say it's a big expense. They're not opposed to doing that, but they're looking for grants. And Derby doesn't have a lot of extra cash laying around at all. I'm wondering, has the chief reached out to you in any way, and is that something that the Valley delegation is talking about?
No, not that I know of. I welcome his call. I'll be happy to talk to him. I've been have an open policy, and I always tell elected officials and chiefs of police and fire to always reach out to me or my office in the Capitol, and I'd be happy to chat with them. We're looking at a whole host of things, and we know that things are tight, that people's budgets are really tight, and we're encouraged. I'm sure you saw that the revenue projections for the state of Connecticut have really gone really up, and it was a fantastic development.
Which I don't understand at all. I have to say, I don't understand how that can be. But yeah, I read the article this morning in the CT Mirror. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Well. So does that mean we're going to get any kind of tax break? And that's the first thing people will ask.
Right. Yeah. Myself, I'm going to be working with my colleagues, and I'm really looking to do things with the budget that focus and target a middle class tax cut. I think that's really important. I think we're also going to see lots of push to make sure that we help small and mid-sized businesses, make sure that those that are unemployed can get access to training so they can get back into the workforce. This is going to take a lot of work, and but I'm encouraged by the fact that it looks like we've been able to erase our deficits with the new revenue projections. I'm also encouraged with the fact that Governor Lamont, I don't know whether he planned it or not, but he was one of the first governors, if not the first governor, to endorse the then candidate Biden in the fall of 2019. I wonder whether he had a crystal that any of us had, because at that time I think there were like 20 candidates running for president, and Biden won. So I'm hoping that relationship, that early endorsement of the governor, will pay big dividends for the state of Connecticut when it comes time to dole out what I hope will be a second round of stimulus coming out of Washington. So I think we're very well positioned to receive quite a bit of funds that's going to help us move out of this pandemic. Secondly, my congresswoman, our congresswoman, Rose DeLauro, as you know, won a very powerful chairmanship of the House committee that is responsible for literally billions and billions of dollars to dole out. So we have two big, awesome developments there at the federal level. Add that to our deficits essentially disappearing, vaccines working their way through our state. I think we're in a good position to do some really awesome things to make sure we all come back strong.
And I have other questions, but given the hour and the fact that I'm losing your internet just a little bit, there were some parts that you faded out. So let's not get Comcast any more angry. I just switched to their unlimited data because they got me over a barrel. But and I saw that might be something you're proposing. I saw some bills you're co-sponsoring that might have something to do with that data cap stuff. But let's ask about that next time because I'd like to do this again.
Sure.
Whenever you'd like. But so just anything else you want to add before we call it a night, Senator Cabrera?
No, Eugene, just thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. I think this is great. I hope we can do it again. I encourage the folks in the district and especially Derby and Ansonia to reach out to my office, reach out to my aide, Sean Grace. Email me. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your ideas, or if there's any way that we can help you, whether it's the vaccines or anything else. Please reach out to me. I see this job as being public service. I take it seriously, and it's an honor to represent them. And I'm looking forward to speaking to you again.
Okay, thank you so much for coming on, and have a great night.
All right, Eugene, have a great night.